This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hi friends, I'm Carrie Jo, and this is Holy Chuckles Podcast. This is a space for honest faith, lived experiences, and shining a light in the places we've learned to hide. I'm not here to explain faith. I'm here to live it out loud. So take a breath and let's make room for what's real. Welcome back to Holy Chuckles Podcast. I'm really glad you're here. I'm moving on to chapter 3, verse 1. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. Just imagine this little boy, 8 to 12 years old, living in the temple, working under Eli. When I say working, he was lighting candles, sweeping the floors. That's what that meant, to minister to the Lord. Because everything we do is ministering to God. Everything we do is learning how to be one with God, how to find our alignment and be in alignment with God. And Samuel, he was living in the temple. He was doing all the things Eli, the head minister, was telling him to do. He was learning in the quiet because Samuel didn't hear from God. God wasn't speaking to Samuel, but Samuel was learning in the quiet. Samuel was growing in the quiet. He was growing in his relationship with God. He wasn't being given direction. God wasn't telling him any prophecies or how to do anything. Samuel was just being. He was just a human being. He was doing what he knew how to do. Wouldn't we all like to go back to being that child again, where we just were being, just living in the moment? And that's what Samuel was doing. Samuel wasn't waiting to hear from God. Samuel wasn't pacing and anticipating and wanting to hear from God. Samuel was just being. In that time, because Samuel lived in the temple, he was protected. He couldn't go out a lot into the community. He was really just being protected in those walls. How many of us wish we could be protected in those walls, not have to deal with the outside, all the distractions that we're given, all the things coming at us? How many of us would like to just be in those walls of a temple, just being? But you can. You can. And that's what I'm learning. That's what I've been learning. You know, I've been working a lot on my control issues and how I handle things. Some of that control is also trying to be right, because if I'm right in the world, then I have a place, I have a purpose, I hold some type of authority because I'm right, I know things. But what if I didn't need to be right? What if I hold authority just being? What if my place in the world is just being Carrie Jo? And I'm here to tell you that's not a what if. That is a fact. That is a fact. Because I don't need to be right in anything. The only thing I need to be is aligned. I made a post on my socials, and the post stated, "Cleverness divides, intelligence includes." God isn't asking me to be right. God is asking me to stay aligned. And you know the reason I don't need to be right is because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is being aligned. Because when I'm aligned, right or wrong doesn't matter. Just me being is what matters. God put me in a space to help me with my control issues, which is learning how to just let everyone be and also let the space just be. It's learning to exist inside a space that doesn't match me. Again, I've said it, isn't that the world? Learning to live inside this vast space that may not match who you are, but that's what we have to do. Unless we don't live in this world, we have to learn to exist in spaces where other humans are different from us, where someone may not do it how you do it. Before, in my previous life, I would correct that. Oh, if you do it this way, it'll be faster, it'll be better. But why? Why do I need to correct that? Because maybe the way that they do it is a better way for them. Every single one of us is different. How I do something may not work for you, and how you do something may not work for me. I remember when I was with my first long-term partner and she had a daughter, she would drive me completely insane in the way that she would do things because she would be asked to clean her room and it would take her the entire day to clean her room. It would drive me insane. And I would be like, why don't you just want to get it done? But that didn't work for her. She needed the space and the time to clean it. Maybe she got distracted. Maybe she needed to do other things. I don't know. But I wish I had learned then just to take a minute and realize while she was cleaning her room, that was giving me peace that I could do something for myself. But instead, I just hyper focused on that because I couldn't control it. I couldn't be in control of it. And it didn't make me feel like everything was perfect, which in turn would make me feel that I was safe. I remember hearing her open her door and she would come into the kitchen and she would throw a little bit away. She would go back in her room, do whatever. Then I would hear the door open again and she would come back in and throw more stuff away. And I would say to her, hey, why don't you get a trash bag and take it into your room? Throw everything in that trash bag at once. Then that saves you time. Or why don't you gather up all the trash and bring it at one time? Because then it saves you time. She would never do it, and it would drive me insane. But what I know now is maybe she needed that time to break away from that room, from that task, so she could go back and finish the task. She needed time away from it. And I realized that because as I've been healing, God didn't make me stay at my job that I had. God was gracious enough to pull me away from that because I couldn't do that task and have the capacity to heal or work on my healing and work on my nervous system. Those two things wouldn't correlate together. One would win out over the other. And I'm grateful that what won out was me healing and working on my nervous system. But God allowed me the ability to be able to still pay my bills and live while I did this. And understanding and going through that allowed me to understand why my daughter at that time had to pull herself away from that task of cleaning her room because she couldn't handle doing it all at once. She couldn't handle doing it like I would have done it because I was an adult. I was made to be an adult way too early so I could handle more tasks. But that didn't register to me back then. Instead, I gave suggestions. Luckily, this daughter of mine, she's a hard head and she has a will to do it her own way. She really just didn't care. She was going to do it her own way. She did. I'm grateful that she was like that, even though as she was growing up, it would drive me nuts. It would take me to my breaking point. But I realize now she was teaching me that everyone is not the same. I couldn't grasp it back then because I was too caught up in my control. I was too caught up in having it my way because my way made me feel safe. But what I understand now is that was her way, and her way made her feel safe. We all have our own ways that make us feel safe and that make us be able to function inside this world with so many distractions. Samuel was lucky enough. He was placed where he didn't have too many distractions, where it was quiet, where things moved slowly, and it was about being aligned with God. Hophni and Phinehas, they had their own way of doing things, and no, they weren't in alignment with God. Samuel was placed under Eli, who was aligned with God. Samuel had the luxury of being in a quiet, safe place that more than not was aligned with God. But most of us didn't have that luxury. Most of us had or have distractions, whether it be the unfortunate things that happened to us as we grew up, whether it be what the world throws at us every single day with the news on TV, the music that's telling us 20 different messages, your friends, your family, anything that's not aligned with you, not aligned with us, not aligned with the world, but aligned with you. Because every single one of us has our own alignment with God. Your alignment and my alignment are two different alignments. Why? Because your nervous system and my nervous system are two different nervous systems. What God put you on this earth to do is different than what God put me on this earth to do. I'm not going to be aligned like you're aligned. You're not going to be aligned like your parents are aligned. It's important for you to be in quiet places so you can find your alignment, not only with God, but with yourself. Because how can you be aligned with God if you're not aligned with yourself? And part of my lesson that I'm learning in the space that I'm in now is finding my quiet in a space that is loud, that has many distractions. It's finding my quiet within myself so I stay aligned with who I am and I stay aligned with God. Whether it's loud, whether it's quiet, it's learning to find those moments when everything is overwhelming and I can't even think. It's finding those moments to center myself and say, okay, I'm overstimulated. My nervous system is activated. I'm getting overwhelmed. What is it that I need to do? For the first time, I'm listening to myself. And I'm listening to my body and I'm finding things that help me when I'm in those moments. Whether it be going to the park and putting my feet in the grass, putting earphones on, even if I don't have anything playing in them, just to have some quiet, taking a drive, listening to music, taking a walk outside, getting away from what is overstimulating me. Because that's what I have to do when I live in the world, because God's not making a place for me just to have four walls around me and stay there. God's making a place for me out in this world, but I have to know how to keep myself aligned. I have to know how to keep myself centered. Because if I can't do it in the place that I live, how am I going to do it out in the world where God has me, being God's vessel? If I let outside noises and outside opinions and everything around me affect me, how am I going to be God's vessel? How am I going to be the best vessel for God? I'm not going to be able to. So God put me in a space where I can practice, where I can grow, just like Samuel. Samuel was in a place where he was growing. Part of ministering before the Lord is staying in alignment. Part of ministering before the Lord is growing within yourself. Because see, I can't hear God all the time saying, "Hey, Carrie Joe, you need to go to the park and put your feet in the grass. Hey, Carrie Joe, you're overstimulated. Take a walk outside. Hey, Carrie Joe, your nervous system is activated. You're getting frustrated. You're getting irritated. I need you to do something outside, or I need you to get centered." God can't do that. Can God do that? Can God be there to tell me all the time what I should be doing? Of course. But why? What's the purpose then of me living here? What's the purpose of me experiencing things? Wouldn't I just be a little robot? I'm doing everything God tells me to do. No, that's not how this works. We have to learn and grow within ourselves to be able to know what we should and shouldn't be doing, what is good for us, what is not good for us. And every single person is different. So it's not a one size fits all. God put me in a space where I could learn and grow and understand how I react when I'm overstimulated, how I react when I'm irritated. God is letting me figure out how to get myself out of these spaces so I can stay centered and I can stay aligned. It's me that has to do the work, and the work is learning how I stay aligned. The work is learning how I operate, how my nervous system is, what works and doesn't work for me. Because then when I'm out in the world being God's vessel, I can get myself back centered to where I need to be, even with every distraction going on. That's what this space I'm living in is for. Samuel was learning about himself. He was growing within himself and his relationship with God. That's the same thing I'm doing here. I'm learning about myself, and I'm growing within myself, and I'm growing in my relationship with God. What a gracious and beautiful God we have. Because God could have just thrown me out into the world and said, "You said you wanted to be my vessel, and here's your task. Here's what you have been placed on this earth to do." But God didn't do that. God's giving me training wheels. I remember when I was a kid, I received my first bicycle. I remember it had a banana seat, handlebars with streamers, and I was so excited. But it also had more than two wheels because it had training wheels. I rode that bike with those training wheels. I can't remember how old I was and who decided it was time for the training wheels to come off, but I do remember me falling several times. I do remember me veering off to the right and hitting the curb and flinging myself into the grass. And I remember my dad's hand on the back of my bike pushing me off, right? Because if you have enough momentum, you can keep going. That vision reminds me of this right here. God gave me training wheels. Living in this space with other people, distractions, people who don't do the things how I do them, people who have their own way of doing their thing. This is my training wheels. Because out there in the world, it's the same thing. It's just a bigger place with more distractions and more people who don't do it how I do it. God is allowing me to be in this small space so I can grow within myself and I can grow my relationship with God. And I can also understand how my nervous system reacts to distractions, to overstimulations, to people who don't do things the way that I do them. And when my nervous system gets activated, I know how to ground myself. I know how to center myself. When God removes my training wheels and He makes that one last push to give me the momentum I need, I keep riding and I stay in alignment with myself and with God.